Hello guys, it's Reat here and welcome to another video. So today I have a very special video because we are going to talk about the Cell add-on. It's an add-on that I have been testing for the last few weeks on Raid, on Mythic Plus, on Beta 2. Basically, Cell is a rich frames add-on, also works for party, that allows you to deeply customize the look and feel and the functionality of your frames. So yeah, to give you a little bit of summary of what we are going to go through today. Obviously, why I selected Cell as the go-to add-on for my red frames towards the new War Within expansion. Also, the other alternatives that I test, basically Voodoo, Grid 2, etc. Who is it for? Like, what type of player I think will benefit more from using Cell, and also a really deep dive on the settings and configuration and how it works, how you can configure it for yourself, and the key things that you have to keep in mind. And also like the compatibility with other add-ons. And at the end, I will be sharing my public profile that if you want, I will be leaving here in the below in the comments. That if you want to use it, feel free to do it. And yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, guys, so we are in game already. So to begin with, why I think Cell is the best add-on so far to set up your party and raid frames. Basically, many reasons, but the highlights are it's super easy to like create different layouts for different needs. So as you can see here, I have one for the priest, I have one for M+, and one for Raid Mythic. And then on the right, you can choose when one of each of these layouts will load. So you can create as many layouts as you need, and you can specify when these layouts will load depending on the role and depending on the spec. So for me, this is a big win. I know it's something that others pretty much all the add-ons do, but they did this in a really simple way. To follow with the second point is simplicity. Like, they are creating a really user-friendly UI. Some of you probably have used in the past Voodoo. Voodoo is a really powerful add-on. I used it in the past, but I think the worst that this add-on has is their UI. So with Cell, they are trying to do the complete opposite. So they are trying to build an add-on like you have a lot of different options to customize your frames. At the same time, it's super easy to deal with. And that's the third point. It's super easy to set up. Like all the options that you have in the add-on are distributed between these 8 tabs you see here. Like, with these 8 tabs, you can do everything in the add-on. Like, there is no a lot of endless options. There isn't like endless menus that you have to go through to find the option that allows you to make what you need, what you want for your needs. Is you can do pretty much everything, but in a really simple way. And that's the fourth point. Up until today, I didn't find anything that can't be done with Cell in terms of how customizable the add-on is and how it affects or impacts the ability of the player to customize their frames to their specific needs. Also, they have incorporated a native functionality of click casting. So if you are used to use other add-ons like Clique or whatever, where you like have like a Mouseover macro like shift and click and it heals or use a specific ability or whatever, this is already incorporated in the add-on and it's super easy to set up, and we'll see it later. And then last but not least, they have added a way to customize other frames, like the pet frames on the right of the party. If you want to see them, you can enable it and then have like a different frames for the pet. Also, the NPC frames. So for example, in Larodar from Yggdrasil, where you, as a healer, for example, you have to heal the roots and the trees, you have the options to show like custom frames and configure them in the way you want. and also for custom frames that they call Spotlight. So Spotlight is like a custom frame that you can enable. It's optional, and basically you can drag people from your raid and put them in the spotlight frame. So the spotlight is like specific people or people that you have to pay attention to for a specific encounter. You can enable this. You can drag those people to this frame. So all these reasons makes me to think that Cell is the best add-on so far for retail WoW, both for right now in Dragonflight, but also for the coming The War Within expansion. Okay, so before digging into the settings part of the add-on, I want to say that I test other add-ons like Voodoo, the LVI frame, Grid 2 frames, and also the default Blizzard frames. And I kept with Cell because mainly two reasons, like the UI. For me, like Cell has the best UI that you can find in any of these add-ons that I mentioned. Like the easiness to set it up is, I mean, ways ages ahead of their competitors, and also because it's also highly customizable. It's true that Voodoo, Reat 2, even LVI in a very complex way, but even LVI, you can really customize them, but it's not easy. It's complex and you have to spend a lot more time doing it. So that's basically the main two reasons that I choose to stay with Cell. Okay, so who do I think that will benefit more from using Cell? So I think Cell can be used by pretty much everyone that wants to have like a more options to customize the right frames, whether independently of the role and spec. But it's true that to be the player that will take most of these add-on is the healers, any type of healers, any spec, but pretty much all the healers. Basically, because healers usually have very specific needs depending on the group they are playing with, the rate encounter they are fighting, the spec they are playing, the how the rest of their UI elements are built. I mean, they have really specific needs in terms of the frames when it comes to heal, because when you are healing and you are on the raid, the main element for you as a healers is being able to keep track of how the raid is going on, what are the incoming mechanics that maybe you have to prepare to heal them, and the main element, UI element for these are the raid frames. So yeah, my recommendation is this add-on can be used by pretty much anyone, but I will double down and recommend it especially for healers. Hey, if you are saying this, it's because you are finding this content valuable. So if so, please consider subscribing to the channel and like this video. You will be helping me so much, so I will really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye. Okay guys, so let's get into the configuration settings. So we are going to start with the general tab, very straightforward, very basic options. You control here the visibility of the frames depending on what you want, if you want to use the tooltips with the self frames or not, the position, custom name next if you want to use similar to what Details has. So yeah, very basic. Let's get to the next tab. So let's get into the layout settings. So the first thing that you will see when you install the add-on is that you will have the default layout. So the default layout is the default one, and then you can create as many as you need for your preferences. And then all the options that you will see here, from group filters to layout setup, all what you did here will be applied to the layout that you have selected from the list. When you create a new one, you can also select to copy the settings from the current one. So if you have a raid mythic layout and then you want to create another layout for the heroic raids or whatever, you can select this one, copy it, and then edit them as you need. Or you can start from scratch. So going back to the options, we have the group filters. So group filters is how many and which groups do you want to see on your rate frame. So I don't know, this can be from very simple needs to very complex needs. So for example, for raid mythic you are 20 main people at 20 main raid, so you only want to see 4 groups. This is how I have them in my setup. But let's say it's a very complex boss. The raid is split in 2, and then you only need to pay attention to 2 groups or whatever. Then you can create a specific layout for that boss, and then for example I will take to only see the 1 and 3 groups, and that's it. And obviously this is a very edge situation, but it's something that you can do if you want. So going back to the rest of the options, we have here 4 tabs: main, pet, NPC, and spotlight. So for the main one, the main option we will find is combine groups. So as you can see at the bottom of my screen, right now, the way the frames are organized are based on the standard way, like from group 1 to group 2 in my case, because it's a raid mythic layout. But if I activate the combine groups option, which only works for raids, by the way, it doesn't work for party frames, you will see that everyone on the raid is combined. So this is useful if your guild or your raid leader doesn't use the groups to organize a raid, then you can use this. It combines everyone on the raid, and then you will see that you can sort and organize the raid in a different way. But I will explain that later because it's a custom solution. But yeah, it's like a different way to organize your groups and raid frames. And then also you have the sort by role. So if I go back to the M+, I usually use it for to sort by me first, then the tank, and then the DPS. This doesn't work for raid. I mean, it works, but it doesn't put you first, or you can't select which tank goes first, or you can sort by any other options. But there is a way to do that. It's just using custom code, but I will explain it at the end of the video. So in my case, I only use the default options for the M+ layout. So the third option we will see is the hide self. So this is if you don't want to see yourself in your party or in your or in the raid. If you don't want to see your frame, this is the options to activate it. For healers, I don't think this is useful at all, but if you're a tank, if you're a DPS, maybe it's something that you want to use, especially if you are doing M+, so your UI gets cleaner. And then the rest of the options are basically the basic ones: the width of the frames, the height, the orientation of the frames, if you want them to grow vertically or horizontally, the archon point, the space between them, etc., etc. And then at the bottom we have the bar orientation. This is the orientation of the health bar. So you have here 3 options: basically horizontal, which is from right to left. Then the vertical A means the health bar from top to bottom, and the power bar, if you have it enabled, is at the right of the frame, and vertical B means it's at the bottom of the frame. So pretty much that's it. Let's go to the pet option. So it's very similar to the other frames, but basically this is to show and to track the pets from your group, from your raid. In my opinion, this is more useful right now in PvP, but here's the option if you want to use it. And then on the third tab, we have the NPC options. In my opinion, this is more useful as a healer in PvE, because let's put as an example 2 encounters, Laurodar and Firak. So in Laurodar you have trees, you have the roots, and as a healer you have to heal them. So obviously you have the boss frames, the default boss frames that you can use if you want, but Cell gives you the options to show the frames for the NPC, and also, and this is where it becomes really powerful, is create a separate frame from the raid. So as you can see here, I have in my setup, I have the separate frame and I can move it as I want, as I need. And also you can make them bigger, smaller. You can change the look and feel of this specific frame, so whatever. And also the click casting macros works with these frames, which makes them really interesting in bosses like Firak or Lardar. And then last but not least, we have the Spotlight frame. So this is a custom frame created by the Cell team. So basically how it works, I can't show you it right now, but because I'm not in a raid, but when you are in a raid, you can take one person or or several persons from your raid frames and drag them into the Spotlight. So what this does is it allows you, if you don't want or if you can't use the focus frame, and obviously it's only one frame, but if you want to track very closely specific people because you have to rescue them as an evoker, because you have to grip them as a priest, or whatever other reason that you may have, you can create this and you can use this Spotlight frame and position it in a more prominent place in your UI. So if you have to keep track of them or whatever for a specific encounter or a reason. To me, this is very situational, obviously, but I think this is a very good addition to the add-on. So let's go now into the look and feel options of the add-on. So in the Appearance tab, you can change pretty much everything related to the visual elements of the frames, which means the font that you want to use on the frame, the strata of the add-on, the texture that you want to use for the health bar, the color, the alphas, the animation of the bar, the color of the health prediction, if you want to activate or not the health prediction, health absorbs, the texture for when you put a shield or the player has a shield. So yeah, pretty much everything. And then also the debuff, the color for the different debuff types. Diseases, magics, potions, bleed, curse, etc. And then also the options for the icons. So I have here to display the animation when for the stacks and the duration, and also to change the color of the duration text depending on how the remaining time of them. So in this case, when it has 3 seconds or less, it will display the text in red. Another cool thing about this is that at the right, you have the preview of everything in real time. So this is very cool, to be honest. And last but not least, keep in mind that all these options apply to all the layouts that you have created. So you don't need to set this up for every layout, but it applies to all what you have already and the new ones that you create. Okay, so now let's dig into the click casting options and the Mouseover macros. So the first thing you have to do is select between the common and the separate profile. The difference is basically the common profile is shared across all your specs, and the separate profile is specific for each of your specs. That said, it works very similar to how other add-ons work, like Clique, which allows you to create 3 different type of macros. So the first one is the general one. This allows you to set your target, your focus, your assist in raid, etc. Then the macro one, basically you will find some pre-built macros like the trinkets, the hands, etc. But if you want to create your own custom macro, you can do so. You click on edit and then you write here whatever you want, depending your needs. And then the last and the most common one is the spell, which is basically to bind one specific spell to be cast on your party and raid. The way it works, I mean, it's a mouse over macro. So as you can see here at the bottom of my screen, I have my self frames. I mouse over my frame, then I do Shift plus left click, and I have used my ward trinket. One thing that you have to keep into consideration is that these macros don't work with frames outside cell. So besides cell, I use LVUI. So if I want to use these with the LVUI frames, it doesn't work. It only works with the raid and party frames from cell. So to me, it's not a big deal, but maybe for other healers, like if you want to, if you have your dispel bind, and when you have to dispel yourself, you use your own player frame. Keep in mind that if you are using a macro Mouseover from Cell, it won't work. It only works with the party and the reframes from Cell. So here is where things get really interesting. This is the indicators settings, and this is where we can set up all our different and custom indicators for rate frames. So basically, first of all, what is an indicator? An indicator is something that, like a visual element that you want to use to track a specific thing. It can be the name, like a very basic thing. Also, if you want to track a specific debuff on a specific boss fight, or I don't know, for example, in my case, as a press, I want to track atonements. You may want to create a custom indicator to see what's the current, how many people in the raid has atonements, and what's the current remaining time. So it's a visual element that helps you to track what's going on a specific players on the raid. So if it's if they are being targeted by the boss and they are going to receive a high damage mechanic or whatever, this is something that you can configure here. So let's go through the default list of indicators that come with Cell already. So first of all, there are a few options that are common to all the indicators. One of them are the Archon points. So basically it allows you to choose where in the frame you want to display your indicator, as well as the offset. So you can move this to move right and left, and then also the Y offset to move them vertically from top to bottom. And the other option is the frame level. So the frame level is a way to set a priority. So if I enable the preview of all my indicators, you see now that you can see the player's name basically. So why is that? Because I have another indicator above the player's name, which means that they are sharing the same placement, to say in a way. So since the name text has the lowest frame level, which means the lowest priority, when the other indicator is displayed, it will show up above the name. So it's a way to maintain your frame as clear as possible when you have to look for the information on what's going on. It is for the party frame or for the raid frame. Status text is very self-explanatory. AFK offline, basically it shows you the status of that player. The help desk is to display the HP value if you want. It can be as a percentage. You can also include the value of the shields, if any. It can be as a percentage. It can be as an absolute number. You can select whatever you want. The same for power text, the amount of mana, rage, whatever. The help threshold. So when the threshold is triggered, you can create this kind of line. You can choose the color. So it's like a way to, okay, this person is I don't know, for example, some spells that you can only cast below X threshold of HP, you can activate, or you can use this for that kind of use case. Then status icon is basically if the player is being resurrected, or if phase or whatever. This is the indicator for it. Role icon, tank, DPS, healer, etc. You can also define a custom texture if you want, or you can use the default one that comes with Cell already. The leader icon, nothing to explain here. The ready check, the right high icon for the player, and then basically you have a few ones for the aggro. So you have this indicator when the player gets aggro. You have this blinking. You can also do the same but with a bar. So if this bar is enabled and if the player gets aggro, this will be displayed. And the one that I use is the border. I think it's the most straightforward one. If the border is red, then that player has aggro. And also with the seal bar. So the seal bar, I have them on the power bar placement. So basically, as I showed you before, if I use my ward trinket to activate the seal, you will see here the yellow bar. So the yellow bar means the amount of seal that I still have. And then we have an indicator for AoE healing. So this indicator is like when a player is going to receive healing from AoE effect, this will like glow and it will indicate you that this player is going to be healed by an AoE effect. Then we have, this is where the most important ones start. We have the external cooldown. So when you use an external cooldown on someone, it will display here. You can obviously, you already have some built-in spells that come from default, but you can add whatever spell you want that you consider as an external cooldown that you want to track. And obviously you can edit the size of the icon, you can enable or disable the animation, the orientation of it, you can change everything. And then the same with defensive. So this is the personal CDs that every class and spec has. So again, Cell already have some built-in spells, but you can add any other spell that you may need. And then you have another indicator that is disabled by default, which combines both the external cooldowns and the defensive cooldowns into one indicator. I don't use this because I want them separated, but it's something that if you want, you can do it. And then we have the tank active mitigation. This is something that right now I'm not using, but this is basically depending on the class. So for example, warrior tank use shield block, the Reat tanks use iron 4 or demo spikes for demo hunters. Basically, it's a bar that indicates you the current duration of the that mitigation. So as expected, we have an indicator for these spells. You can customize it a lot, to be honest. So you can select whether to track all the debuffs or only show those that you can dispel. Also, the type of highlight can be modified between 4 different versions, gradient, solids, and between entire health bar or the current health bar. So if you choose solid, it's like a solid color, then gradient, and it's like gradient half is like the first 50% of the frame, or the entire frame, which is something like this. I remember that you can change the color of the debuff type here on the appearance tab. You can change the color if you wish. So let's continue with the debuffs indicator. This is, to be honest, very self-explanatory. This is basically the indicator that shows the debuffs that any given player has at any given moment. Also, you can play with the blacklist. So if you don't want to see a specific debuff here, you can just add the spell ID and that's it. Also, there is a second list to track big debuffs. So big debuffs means like more important debuffs and it makes them bigger. In my case, I'm not using it because if you scroll down, you will see that you have two size options, one for the regular ones and one for the big one. So in my case, it's the same size because I'm not using this list at all because I am using the rate debuffs indicator. So with the rate debuffs indicator is one of the most or the important indicators that we have on this list because it tracks the most important debuffs. So the list of debuffs that tracks this indicator is configured here. We will see it later, but basically it contains all the bosses from all the raids and all the trust debuffs and boss debuffs from the M+ dungeons. And you can enable or disable them as you wish, and then the way it's displayed, the colors, the sizes are configured on the right debuffs indicator. So to put an example, Vexamus from the Academy, when it casts the mana bombs, so the players that get the mana bomb will be affected by this indicator, and you will see the very big icon on the frame with the mana bomb debuff. So we have also an indicator for the private auras. Private auras is a new system that Blizzard introduced in Dragonflight. So it can be tracked by the standard ways, to say in a way. So for example, Smolderon, when you get targeted by the bombs, that debuff can be tracked by any external add-on. It's the players need to use a macro to let the add-on know that is targeted by that debuff. So we have also an indicator for this, and you can configure it the same way as you do with red debuffs or debuff or whatever. And last but not least, regarding the debuffs, we have the targeted spell. So this is very useful on M+ when you get targeted by a trust mob that casts something on you, and it has to cast it. This indicator will be activated, and then you will see the icon from the debuff, and you will also see the this glow around here, these lines, and you can basically configure the colors. You can also configure like the list of the debuffs that it's tracking. So this is very useful for healers because you can see when the player is being targeted and how long the cast take, and then you can add before the damage happens. So for example, in my case, priest, if I see someone from the party is being targeted, then I have time to put a seal, to cast the ward seal or a pain suppression or whatever before it happens. And this is very useful, and that's why I have it like in a very big icon at the bottom of the frame. There are a few other indicators like target counter, control, which is really useful for PvP, consumables to track what's missing, also for missing buffs in raid, etc. And then we have a custom one called healers. It already comes with Cell. When you install Cell for the first time, you will be asked to install this package, and basically it's to track the buffs from the healers. So for example, me as a priest, if I cast Seal, I'm tracking right now the Seal, the Atonement. If I cast Renew, I see it here too. So yeah, pretty much is basically you can select whether track the ones cast by you or by others or by anyone, depending on what you need. And then you have here the list of all the buffs. So in my case, I also added Power Infusion because it wasn't added by default in this list. And then obviously, as the rest of the indicators, you can customize the text, the size, etc., etc. So before explaining how you can create a custom indicator, I want to do a quick review of how the right debuff indicator works with the right debuff list. So you have the right debuffs list tab here, sorry. And then you will find here all the raids from Dragonflight and the current dungeons of the current season. So you can go to any of these raids or dungeons and go to any of these bosses, and then you will find a list of different debuffs. And if for some reason is that debuff that is not being tracked already, you can add it by clicking on create and then set the spell ID. Or for example, if you don't want to track a specific debuff for a specific boss, you can go to the debuff here and disable it by unchecking enable, and that's it. So this is very nice. So if you are if you want to modify the debuffs that the right debuff indicator will display, keep in mind that you have to set in this up here on the right debuffs tab. Going back to the indicators, I'm going to explain you now how you can create your own custom indicator. So basically, what you have to do is going at the bottom of the add-on, click on create, and then you have to decide between buff and debuff. This is the type of aura that you want to track. In my case, I'm gonna do these examples with Atonement. So I'm going to choose buff. Then we have different types of indicators. We're going to go through all of them. Let me show you because I already have them created here. So let me enable icon. So the first thing that you want to do is enter the spell ID on the buff list. So this is where you enter all the buffs or all the auras that you want to track using the spell IDs. So if I cast now icon, as you can see here the Atonement icon, and then you can obviously customize this indicator, the size, if you want to shoot animation, the text that you want to display, etc., etc. And this is for the icon. So let's go and see the block one. So if I enable the block and then I cast again Atonement, you will see this is more like the indicators from LBUI. It's like squares, color code squares. And then obviously, again, you can change everything. You can change the size, you can change the color, you can change whatever you want. And then we go to see the overlay. So the overlay is like a color you put above the frame. So if I cast it, it's blue, but you can change obviously the color to the what you want, and then also we can select the orientation, vertical, horizontal. So yeah, pretty much you can do anything with it. Then we have the glow. This is probably this will remind you from some weak auras. So again, if I cast Atonement, I see here the glow. You can select the type of glow, shine, proc. You can select whatever or none even. And then the number of lines, for example, for pixel, you can select more lines, fewer lines, the frequency, so it's slower or even faster. So yeah, whatever you want. Then we have the custom texture. So if I now enable this, you can select from the textures that already come with Cell, but also you can add your own, like I don't know, an emoji from Twitch or whatever. And then when I cast this, you will see at the top of the frame the texture. So let me change this for another one. So this is cool. You will see here, and it fades out based on the remaining time of the aura. Obviously, you can set it up everything here. Then we have the solid color. You can choose between the type of color, if it's solid, if it's a vertical gradient, horizontal gradient, whatever. Let's do this example with solid, so with red. So when I cast a tournament, it will turn the frame red, and I can do the same with any other color or whatever. And you can change by change over time, so you can change how it looks. Then we have the text. The text is not for the name of the buff or the debuff, it's for the duration of it. So if you only want to track something very specific and see the duration of it, you can use text for it. And then the last one is the rectangle. So the rectangle is very similar to the bar. It's something that when I cast a tournament, you will see it here. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can make it whatever you want. And then the last one is the bar. This is the custom indicator that I already created for my profile to track a tournament. So when I cast, for example, a tournament, you will see a bar here, and this will be displayed on all the players and all the frames that has a tournament at that moment. And it tracks the duration of it, so I know when I have to refresh them, or when it's about to expire, or whatever. So yeah, this is all the indicators that you can create with Cell. I think it gives you endless possibilities, endless use cases. You can adapt this to your preferences, to your needs, to any specific boss, to any specific dungeon. You can do whatever you want with infinite options and no limits. So Reat, is it compatible with other add-ons? I have to say it is compatible with OmniCD without any problems. So it works with the party frames, it works with the raid frames, and it also works with the spotlight frames. So the custom frames that come from Cell, it also works with OmniCD. So right now it doesn't show anything because I'm not in a party, but if I enable the manual mode, you see them. They are enabled, they work, so yeah, basically that's it. But yeah, OmniCD is compatible with Cell. Unfortunately, Clique is not compatible, but it makes sense. The functionality is already built into the Cell add-on itself, so you don't have any need to keep using Clique if you're using Cell. So regarding how you can sort your raid frames in a custom way, it's not something that you can do natively from the add-on itself, but there is a workaround. Why? Because Cell allows you to load custom code. So all you have to do is go to the About tab. Then you can see here the code snippets, click on it. and then you can create a new snippet. Then you can copy paste here. I will leave the snippet link on my description, but basically the way it does is if I go to my setup, so you select here the order. So in my case it is player, which means I go first, so I will appear first in my rate group, then it will sort by role, and then by spec role. So then below you can define some other options, like if you are sorting by name, what is the name priority, but I'm not using this. I'm only sorting by me first and then by role and spec role. So the role priority is first the tanks, then healers, then the DPS. And then the spec role priority will be tank, range, melee, DPS, healer, etc. It's very easy. I will leave the link below in my description. If you have problems with it or any issue, please let me know in the comments. I will help you. But yeah, it's super easy. Once you are done, you have to check this box from here where I have my cursor. Then you click on save and then you click on reload. And every time that cell loads, it will load also this frame. And then basically every time you go into raid, it will automatically sort your frames the way you want. So guys, that's a wrap. That's the review of the cell add-on. Hope it helps you to set it up and to answer any doubt that you may have about it. Also, I will share my profile if you like especially if you're pressed and you like the custom indicator I have for atonement, or if you like the way I have configured my frames. I will share my profile also below in the description, so let me know. Please like this video if you find it helpful, and please, any question you might have about the add-on, you can go to the add-on Discord itself or ask me in the comments and I will try to help you as soon as possible. Have a good day. Bye bye bye.